Hi, and thank you for joining us on another webinar in the series presented by Mirai Asset. And this is a series which is all about decoding ETFs. I'm Surabhi Upadhyay. Now, in today's webinar, we will specifically focus on fund of funds. This is a very interesting route you can use to invest in ETFs. And today, specifically, we'll talk about fund of funds that are a great way of investing into global equity markets as well. Yes, going beyond Indian shores when it comes to your investments. Let me introduce our two experts on the show. Joining us is Mr. Vaibhav Shah, who is from Mirai Asset Management Company. And to give us a perspective on the financial planning side and how to use FOFs more efficiently, we have with us Mr. Vijay Hede, who is, of course, an IFA, and he's one of the best known names in the world of personal finance from the state of Goa. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Great to have you both on this very interesting subject because we're all evolving a little as we go along our personal finance investment journey. So first things first, I want to get both of you gentlemen to react on FOFs and why fund of funds. How does this vehicle even work? So let me start with you first, Vibha.
So thanks, Surbi, for having us on the show. And like you rightly pointed out, fund of fund is coming out as a very interesting option for investors to make their investments. And the beauty of fund provides to an investor is the flexibility to invest across multiple funds, multiple schemes. So the word saying fund of fund means you have a fund which can invest in multiple funds. So the advantage of fund can give you, it can give you the flexibility of investing in multiple funds. It can give you flexibility of investing in funds which are in different in asset class, so you can have a mix of equity, fixed income, international equities as well. And another key advantage fund of fund provides to investors is that you can make systematic investments when you make the investments through a fund of fund. So we've seen traditionally, like passive investing is become a very big thing globally, and you can clearly see that passive funds, be it ETFs and index funds, have globally crossed AUM of active funds. Now, if you were to see the Indian markets, I think the fund of fund is coming out as a very interesting way. A lot of investors and partners can look at to make investments and make investments in Indian equities, international equities, and provide them the same flexibility what a mutual fund used to provide. So it
Okay.
combines the advantages of mutual fund and ETF together.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. So I guess we can consider a fund of funds like a master fund. It's a master investment vehicle, which is in turn investing in different types of funds. And some of those funds could also be ETFs or exchange traded funds. Mr. Hede, let me get your opening thoughts on this. Uh, does it sound like an efficient structure, or does it sort of involve too much of layering? Because as a master fund, then in turn investing in downstream funds.
Okay, I will examine this from the investor point of view. Whenever you want to get a retail investor into such funds, one of the greatest facility you have is there is no need to have a demat account. So you can just as you buy just in the way that you buy Indian funds, you can simply buy the fund. The second advantage you have is that you can invest through a process of SIPs. That is the mode I typically use for getting investors into the funds, and typically the global funds.
Vibha, before we sort of get down further to global funds, just sort of to understand, because it's sort of a dual layer structure, there is a fund of fund investing in further downstream funds. Does it necessarily mean that the cost will have to go up for investors?
So I think SEBI has been very clear that whenever regulations have been created, it has been created to be investor friendly. So there is a cap that has been created for a fund of fund. So it cannot charge more than 1%. And the expense can be a maximum of 1% or double the cost of an underlying fund. So if the underlying fund which you are making investment is say charging only say 10 basis points, then the fund of fund can charge not more than 30 basis points as the cost. So regulatory framework has been created in such a way that the fund of fund expense isn't too very high, it remains within the regulatory frame of 1% and maximum up to 2% of 2 times of the underlying cost of the fund. I think so. What happens is, like Mr. Hede sir mentioned, the advantage that a mutual fund offers to investors, which is investing the SIP route, and as well as not having the burden of having a demat account and holding it in the mutual fund simple route. I think so is a lot of the reasons why a lot of investors and partners prefer the fund of fund route, and the cost of the underlying fund and the fund of fund has to be managed within this same cost structure to give the advantage to the investor.
Okay, fair enough. So one more point to sort of clarify this. Vaibhav, when we say that there's going to be a fund of fund that's going to invest, say, in US technology companies or global blue chip companies, now the fund is not directly buying those shares. The fund is going to buy units of another fund, which will in turn buy those stocks, right? So typically, is it always the same AMC? Or is there a mandate to even go beyond and maybe buy some other ETFs from a different ETF provider? I just want to understand how the architecture works.
Sure. So, Surbhi, I think so excellent point that you brought about is that the structure is fund of fund. So you have to underlying invest in a fund. Now, in this case, you would see most asset management companies try and leverage their existing global office and their global offering. So, say Mirae Asset has flexibility to asset managers to even go beyond their own asset management companies. And there are a lot of products from many other AMCs in India which provide international offering which is beyond them. And you would appreciate that a lot of Indian asset management companies don't have global
Global
offices as
parents,
well.
yeah, that's what I
Yes,
was wondering. Exactly. They may not
yes.
have international strong AMC parentage.
Yes. So what they do is they would do due diligence on some of these global asset managers, choose product offerings which they feel would make sense, and the regulator SEBI has only clearly mandated to asset management companies that you clearly define which fund you will make the investment. So you can make, say, investment, for example, say in US technology, then you have to specify which are the underlying funds that you will tap, and you
Okay.
can clearly define one or three or four are the
Oh,
funds that you like to tap. But that has to be defined very clearly in the offer document so that the investors are able to make a rational choice. And
yes.
more or less, all asset management companies usually invest 100% in one fund only, but the
Okay.
flexibility is given just in case there is some change which happens to that underlying fund, then the home fund doesn't ceases to exist.
Okay, that was another question that I had. That typically an FOF, will it invest only in one fund? Is there a cap? Can it invest in a mix of two or three different underlying funds? What is the prevalent industry trend and what's the regulation in terms of a cap, if any?
Sure. So, Surbhi, there is no cap from the regulator that you have to invest, say, in only one fund, or cannot go beyond 5 funds. So you can
Ah,
create a certain theme, and within that an umbrella theme, you can have
yeah.
money products or funds that you can offer. But
That
very
would be
clearly,
really interesting because right now the fund of fund is more a feeder route. It's a way
yes,
of taking exposure to an international fund. But if what you say comes true, then we're talking about a very intelligent fund of funds that's selecting other funds for me as an investor in the international funds that perhaps you feel make sense, right?
yes, yes. So I think so. The regulatory framework allows you that flexibility to
Mhm.
choose multiple funds. So based on underlying theme or market sentiments, you can make changes in which underlying funds to make the investment. But as I mentioned, it has to be clearly mentioned in the offer document so that the investors are well aware when they make the investment choice.
Okay, so that's good, and that clears up a lot of points for us investors. So, Mr. Harry, now that we understand the architecture, in your wisdom and opinion, how have you sort of advised some of your clients to go down this route? Is it best to look at simple things like US markets or US tech stocks? What's your opinion?
My opinion is to begin with, you should start, keep it very simple. And as you rightly said, in our own experience, we started selling a fund of fund, which was basically a US based fund. But as I pointed out earlier, when you examine these US companies, particularly the technology leaders, the markets are not simply in the US. They are global leaders. And so the markets are spread across the world. So when you invest in these companies, actually you are investing in the global market. This is how we started. And when we started, we also looked at these leaders who, who have all the parameters which make them very enticing to the investor. Like they spend a large portion of their revenue in R&D. They hold huge patents. So like say in artificial intelligence, if you have to invest in a stock like Nasdaq, just as an illustration, you would be controlling, you would be having about access to 45% of the patents in all verticals of AI. So it becomes easier for us select such funds for the investor. They have heard the names of the underlying businesses. Possibly something is right on their body. It could be an Apple Watch, or in case of a TSMC, I think every person in the world now today has a TSMC chip or somewhere on him or on his house as well. So, contrary to what we thought, people were pretty much aware of what these businesses are. They will not have been aware of what are their financials, but the names of the businesses are known to them.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and
This is
that's
how
why I'm
we
in
started.
the. Yeah, I guess that's how it's easier to perhaps convince people as well, because there's touch and feel. Now we know many of these companies, at least as consumers, maybe not as investors, but as consumers for sure.
Absolutely.
Which is why, Mr. Heri, the next question is, what parameters to keep in mind? Because it's also a little easy to get carried away. So, what is the question that you need to ask your own self in terms of your risk profile, your portfolio profile, before deciding to deploy money?
Correct, correct. So first is you need to fix some kind of a band for investing into international markets. So it is not that if these companies look good, so I put all my money into international companies. That would be a very bad idea. So depending on the risk capability, capacity to take risks, we allocate somewhere between 15 and 30% of the portfolio into of the equity portfolio into the international businesses, and we have moved progressively. For information, we have moved from FOF to ETF. We also advise businesses to invest directly. So as they move up, the ladder, you can have more complex products which they can look at.
So let's also now, we've spoken about return, we have to talk about risk as well, because every investment can entail a certain degree of risk, and we should be aware of what perhaps lies ahead. So in terms of risk, I mean, one thing that I can straight away think of, obviously, and that's common if you're investing in a different geography, if there's any macro change there, political change there, obviously that could lead to volatility in your investments. But apart from that, what other major risks should one be prepared for?
So I think when you invest outside India, typically you're converting your assets which are in INR to some other currency, which is if you're investing say in US markets, you're converting INR into USD. So one risk which always will be there will be the currency risk. Now we've seen time and again that the Indian rupee has tended to depreciate versus most of the developed market currencies, and that has got to do with the if inflation differential between India and some of the other countries. So in case of US, Indian and US inflation differential always used to be about 3-5% on the inflation front, and that led to rupee always being depreciating on a long term basis by about 3 to 5%. So in the short term, you may see rupee may appreciate and do well versus the dollar. So that's a risk that investors need to consider. In the long term, I think so. We've seen that the rupee tends to depreciate. So the currency is, I would say, is not a major risk. If you have a long-term perspective, it may be adding to your returns, but it could be sort of a risk in the very short term. So investors need to consider the currency part, and I think so. Like you rightly pointed out, political risk and one specific country risk. when you invest, and if there is any change in geographic or policies or reforms, then that could have an impact. Just one thing, like Mr. Hede sir mentioned, most of the global companies are becoming, not, they may be listed in US, but they are global companies. So I don't think so that risk is now as high as we may perceive, because they have exposure to multiple countries and multiple markets, which reduces the overall risk.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I guess a lot of these US giants, they are operating across the world in different geographies. So therefore, that's some comfort. Finally, gentlemen, on taxation, very important to understand that for, if I'm investing 100 rupees and let's assume my return, is 100, how much is going to be taken away by tax, Mr. Hede?
Yeah. Uh, Typically, I will answer this in parts. First is what should be ideal residence within a fund. I mean, people who have a horizon of less than 3 years, I don't think should come into any equity. Forget the international funds. And typically, for an international fund, I would recommend investment horizon of 5 years. Now let us look at what are the kinds of the taxes. If you invest domestically, then any investment over a period of 1 year would qualify as a long-term gain, and it would be taxed at 10%. Yes. So net, the difference between a domestic fund and international fund over since 2018 has narrowed down quite a lot. So it is not a subject matter, I think, for discussion.
So tax is not much of a bother, you're saying?
No, provided you are taking a long-term haul. If you are looking at, say, investing for 1 year, 2 years, then certainly a tax is an issue, because in an international fund, in 2 years you will be taxed at 20 with 30% or whatever is your
Slab rate.
marginal taxation rate. But if you were to invest in a domestic fund, you would only be taxing 10%. So hence we advise a slightly higher holding period for the international funds than you do for a domestic fund. Typically,
Fair.
5 years.
So fair. That's a fair point. But just to sort of understand this, at present indexation rates, 20% with indexation comes to roundabout how much, Mr. Hede?
It should be around 15%. It will vary with the number of years, and it will also
Yeah.
vary with the returns that you get. If the returns on these funds are low, then the difference will be less. But since it is a percentage, but if the returns are very large, then it could come as much as 15%. So you would be paying around 5% extra.
Okay, got that. All right, gentlemen. So quick final thoughts then. Final piece of advice that you would like to leave investors with when it comes to fund of funds and investing in global markets. Weber?
Yeah, so Surbhi, I think so. If you were to, tell investors, a fund of fund provides you the advantage of not having a demat account, provides you the flexibility of doing systematic investing, which is very, very important, and has been time and tested way of investing and creating wealth. So, and the advantage I would just want to add in a fund of fund is, if you want to do an SIP, it's slightly cumbersome to do it on the ETF route, while the fund of fund means you can do it automatically, and that makes it very efficient. And like Hede sir mentioned, the taxation is actually not negative for international funds like people perceive. Once your time frame is 3 to 5 years, the taxation actually can work significantly in your advantage. And the tax and you get exposure to, when you invest outside India, a lot of global leaders, which are 97% not covered in India from both an economy perspective as well as market perspective. So fund of fund is an excellent way to look at global investing, and investors need to embrace this as an excellent investment option.
Okay, point taken. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for explaining all the nuances of this route, the fund of fund routes, and why we need to also look at global markets to diversify our portfolio and even perhaps enhance our returns. Thanks very much for this webinar.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all the scheme-related documents carefully.